the Soulful Way. My name's Jennifer Maki. Good morning, Liz. Good morning. Right, Greta? I love it. Oh, Katrina's here too. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Soulful Sessions Live. This is a highlight of our week. My name's Jennifer Maki, and this is my much better half,
Todd Maki. I
Todd
disagree with
Maki.
that. It's not a
Oh,
value that I hold.
well, I love you. I love that we love each other to death. Oh, we got some stories about that later today, too. Anira, Jen, welcome. Oh, I'm just so thrilled. So, if you're new to the Soulful Way, we've had this going for about 4 months now, where we are picking a theme every single month and we hone right in on it. And it's amazing what happens when you focus in on a value in your life. And this comes from the fact that I've worked for about over 20 years. I've had my own business and I work a lot in values action alignment. I kind of started out in the public relations and communications realm, and then I moved into working with nonprofits and then launched my own business, talking about what truly matters in our lives. Good morning, Kat. We got another newbie. That's so great. Welcome, welcome to the Soulful Way and the Soulful Sessions Live. We try to do these at least once a month with Todd and I. We used to do them every single week, but we've got some other programs and stuff that we're building. And now we're doing us once a month. And then we also have a panel, which is next Sunday, with some amazing people talking about adventure. And then we've got our workshop at the end of the month. So don't miss that. It's always the last Saturday of every month, and it's from 10 until 12 Pacific. So we're thrilled if you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular. It has been a beautiful month of adventures thus far. And most adventures after our last Soul of Curiosity workshop in June, we had some incredible folks join us at the Soulful Way. So we're feeling the momentum, we're feeling the adventure grow, and that people are really feeling that honing into these themes, these values in our lives. They really are the foundation of everything else that we build, both personally and professionally, in relationship with ourselves, in relationship with those we love, and even strangers on the street as we make this world a better place. So we're really thrilled that you're here, and it's always exciting. So I encourage you, chat. We're going to have some questions for the chat. Please, I love it. Todd and I, we don't mind talking at you, but we'd rather talk with you. So please engage in the chat today. It really creates the energy and the momentum. So the first thing we want to do is just start with a bit of a centering exercise. We do this every time we're talking, every time we're meeting, because it's just a way of coming into the moment and just letting go of the busyness of our lives for a moment. And we don't often get those chances day to day. So I just invite you to set your things aside, your coffee, your tea, and just settle into a little bit of a comfortable space, rolling your shoulders back, letting that tension out, either picking a soft spot in front of you to gaze at or closing your eyes. And just giving yourself permission to be here now. So just taking some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just letting everything else go. Letting the busyness of your morning or your day, just let it go for now. Feeling your breath. And I just want you to imagine, in the theme and the value of adventure, seeing yourself in your mind's eye at a time when you felt adventurous. Imagine how you felt in that moment, the contentment, the joy, a little bit of fear, just enough to fuel the fires. And just seeing yourself in that moment, whatever is around you, whatever you see and smell and feel. But most of all, just returning to that place of adventurous spirit and the energy that that brings to your body and your mind. And then I just want you to silently ask yourself a question. Where is the adventure leading me next? Don't have to answer, you just feel it. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. So when you're ready, take that calm and presence back with you into the room. Wiggle your toes and fingers. And open your eyes and come on back. It is amazing to give ourselves that license of just coming into the present moment. And I hope throughout your whole week that this is one of the things that these sessions together inspire. So I always like to start off, I do a lot of research around these topics. And I love the idea that we go from the infinite, taking a look at what adventure is in the world and what that means to the development of our world, of how we even got here, and whatever country you live in, and whatever city you live in, recognizing that the value of adventure is actually what brought you there, what brought our ancestors to where we are. And so thinking about just the responsibility and the opportunity that that holds for where we are, and that we, even in this very busy world of 6 billion people, we are the adventurers. We are the curious adventurers, tying in last month's theme as well. And so then I like that we bring it through into our business and what we're doing and how we're adventuring in that realm. And then how we're adventuring with our relationships and refreshing and renewing that, always, always involving in that. And then how we adventure within and bring it down to the finite. And so, one of the things that I love to do is take a look at ancient quotes or ancient philosophers and what they bring to us, because that wisdom still lives in us today. So, the quote for today is: "A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving." A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. And that's Lao Tzu. And so just to think about that for a moment, what that means for you, that our life goal is to be a good traveler, that adventure is not just about adventuring out into the world and creating, amazing explorations out to where we go out there. It is also about how we bring adventure to our lives, our relationships, and to who we are for the rest of time, that we conjure that little girl or little boy in your mind that you had, that was adventurous without thought, that put towels around your neck and jumped off the back of the couch and knew that you were a mad hero in this world and that everything was possible. We never want to lose that. And in a world that values a lot of different things, and a world that's very busy, we want to be able to come back to these values again and again so that we are centered and in a foundation of those things that are most essential in our lives. And so when you hear the word adventure, so I want to just go through and read some of the chats. Oh, it's great. Love it. Oh, you were in Istanbul for a moment, Greta. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you. It's refreshing. Sarah, I know it's such a gift to give ourselves that. Love it. Katrina, G. I love you, girl. Spontaneous, absolutely. Those are the best kind of adventures, the unplanned ones. Absolutely. In my world, I call them surrender adventures, and we'll talk more on that in a bit. But so I'm going to enter in, we're going to talk about this, and then I want you to enter your thoughts into the chat. So to open this up, how our flow is, we ask a question, and then Todd's going to share a little something, something. I'm going to share a little something, something, and you're going to write in the chat, and then we're going to share your thoughts so that we can really come together as a community. This is the best we can do when we're doing these lives. And then on the Saturday at the end of the month, we get to do it in person, on Zoom. So when you hear the word adventure, what immediately comes to mind? When you hear the word adventure, what immediately comes to mind? And so I'm hoping, Todd, you can hear me okay, honey, because it's saying that my internet's a bit unstable, but you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Out for a second, but just
okay. So that's okay, great. Hopefully I don't freeze in one of those like moments. So when you hear the word adventure, what immediately comes to mind? Okay. And so as Todd and I are sharing, then you're putting your thoughts in the chat and then we'll chat after. Okay, Todd Maki, I'm going to pass it over to you because you have been deep and immersed in the down that rabbit hole of adventure all these last 2 weeks. Please share your beautiful thoughts.
Thank you. I think one of the things I wanted to talk about today was the overall arching theme of this series of podcasts and discussions and workshops is based on values as a core thing. So we're all talking about values, and I want to talk about what values are and how they work. I think I think that the values are basically a structure on how to react to things. So when we talk about adventure, I'm going to get to a story in a second, but I want to give you an analogy of something that it's about baseball. And so I'm going to realize that not everybody knows baseball. People outside North America don't watch it as much, don't understand it as much. People in North America don't really understand it very well. But I'm going to talk about one concept, and it's about being a hitter. So the objective of the hitter, he stands in front of what's a five-sided shape on the ground, and that's the plate. So he stands up to the plate, and the pitcher throws the ball, and the pitcher's job is to get him out, and the hitter's job is to get a hit. That's all they're supposed to do. They're supposed to get a hit. Or actually, it's not even to get a hit, it's to get on base. So that's the first step, is to get on base. So there's 5 ways you can get on base. The first one's called a balk, B-A-L-K, balk. And basically, when the pitcher has
Okay.
the ball and he's about to throw it and he gets halfway through and he stops, that's deemed as being unfair to the hitter, and he gets to go on base. So think of that as an external event that got him to his goal. Okay. The second one is a pass ball. So the pitcher's been up late last night and he's a little bit hungover. He throws the ball, goes way over the head of everybody, hits the backboard. Everybody has to run. But the batter in that case can run to first base and steal first base. So that's a kind of a nefarious way to get to first base. It's kind of a cheap way. The third one is a walk. So basically, you get 3 strikes and 4 balls is the scenario. So a strike is when the ball goes over the plate in the strike zone, and the batter either swings at it or doesn't swing at it, and it gets there. And so it's in the strike zone. That's called a strike. So you only get 3 of those, and then you're out. When you're outside the strike zone, it's called a ball, and you get 4 chances to have a ball. If you get 4 balls, you get to walk to first base. So it's still getting to first base, but nobody's going to cheer because you got to walk. It's not very exciting, right? And then the fourth way is to take a swing at the ball and hit it into play, and nobody catches it, and you run to first base before the ball gets there or is caught. So that's the way most people are trying to do. So it's kind of an imperfect swing. It's kind of where you want it to go, or it's placed in a specific way. And then there's the glory. The glory is the home run. So you step up to the bat and you swing and you hit the ball, and it goes over the fence and nobody can touch it. That's a home run. It's an automatic, all 4 bases. So
Woo!
there's kind of your paradigm for a value. You can either wait for an external force to get you where you're going. You can cheat to get there. You can wait till it happens in a sort of a long way, but not really make it happen. You can take a swing at it and kind of get there, or you can hit a home run. So really, what the adventure value is trying to get a home run.
Yeah.
So what we want to do with this is to focus on how do you get to hit a home run. Now, here's the second part of that. Where did the adventure come from? Where did you figure out what that adventure was going to be for that particular day or that particular week or month or lifetime? It comes from somewhere. And I wrote an article that we'll talk about a little bit later, just a short one, it's 800 words, about where it comes from. And my thesis is that adventures come from boredom. So what do I mean by that? So there was a singer back in she's still around, they still perform, she's called Margot Timmins. She had a band called the Cowboy Junkies. They're a Canadian band. They were a late 80s alt country band. They're a really cool band. They did a great remake of a Lou Reed song called Sweet Jane, and just beautiful. Really great band, interesting.
Yeah.
So this is the Canadian part coming out, so I apologize to those that aren't from Canada or don't know that. The second part is, back in the day, used to listen to CBC radio all the time. So
Yeah.
CBC is equivalent to BBC. It's a public radio thing, radio station, and it broadcasted interesting, eclectic interviews that weren't like the most interesting, eclectic, angry people in the world. It was back in that it's a kinder, gentler type of a journalism. So they were interviewing Margot Timmins on CBC radio. And yes, I see that, Sarah. Yeah, it's very much like Australia. So she was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked her why there were so many great Canadian songwriters. And she thought for a second. Now they were talking about like Gordon Lightfoot and Joni Mitchell and Ron Sexsmith, who I really recommend if you haven't heard him, listen to him. Um, Brilliant lyricists, songwriters, storytellers.
Mm.
She said, "Why are there so many great Canadian songwriters?" And and her response was she thought it was because of distance and travel. So in Canada, if you're playing in a band, just for those of you who are not outside of Canada, uh, almost all the cities in Canada are less than 100 miles from the U.S. border. So it's basically it's the biggest country, second biggest country in the world,
Yeah.
but we live in a strip at the bottom because it's too cold up north. So we live along this strip, and so if you're touring as a band, you have to drive from city to city to city. So the second biggest country by size, very small population. We're now at about 40 million people, so it's spread out a lot of people. What that means is you have to drive from city to city to city. So I was a beneficiary of that. I lived in Thunder Bay, and so if you were a touring act, you had to drive. If you're going from Toronto to Vancouver, you had to literally drive through Thunder Bay, and it was 8 hours on both sides between the cities. So you would typically play a gig there and stay there. So I saw some really interesting people like
Yeah.
Elvis Costello on his first tour, and I saw Tony Bennett, and so just this eclectic group of musicians that would come through.
Yeah.
But there was this long drive, and even in Elvis Costello's biography, he talks about the long drive from Thunder Bay to Winnipeg for the next gig. So back in the 80s and the 70s, when people were touring, they would get in their car, and there's a stretch from Toronto, actually, it's from about Sudbury to Thunder Bay, which is about 18-hour, 16-hour drive, where if you put your, in the old days, you had a scan on your radio, you would put the radio on, and you would press scan, and it would find a station so you could listen to music or somebody talking. In that period of about 16, 18 hours, there's no radio stations. So it would just scan and scan and scan and scan and scan and scan. So you were left to your own devices back in the day. So if you're touring and you're doing this on a regular basis, you're basically sitting there looking out the window at the prairies. Or the joke about the prairies is if your dog runs away, you can watch him for 3 days. That's how flat it is. So it's a very
You want to have
beautiful.
the internal adventure while you're having that external adventure for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So that the boredom is what caused she in her idea. The boredom is what caused you to be thinking, to be looking at ideas, to be introspective. And I think that a lot of boredom is a driver for adventure. So you're sitting there at home and you're watching TV and you go, "Oh, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this, done that, I've done that, I've read that, I've done that." Then all of a sudden you go, "Okay, what else can I do?" And you sort of sit by the window and you look out and you go, "Oh, I could do this." So I think that the question, Jen, was what was the question that you asked me at the beginning before I started talking on this long diatribe?
Just what is adventure to you?
Oh, what
So
is
this
adventure?
is
Yeah.
just, yeah, what is adventure to you? This
So
is it. You're describing it beautifully.
yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's the whole. In a nutshell, that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. Is that the adventure comes from boredom in
Yeah,
not in all cases, but I think it's a little voice inside your head that says, "No,
absolutely.
you should study history in university." Where did that come from? I don't know, but something in the quiet told me to do that.
Yeah. So it's an intentional boredom. It's much tougher to get now. Like as you're describing that story of driving, and when I lived in Europe and I said that I used to drive up to Thunder Bay in 16 hours for a weekend from Toronto to go up and see my family in Thunder Bay. Um, I remember like the people in Europe that I lived with would look at me and go, "You drive how long to get where?" And so it was this idea that, in Europe, you can pass 4 countries in that period of time. But in Canada, there's that stretch. So I thought about that as far as just, I remember those road trips, just sitting and looking out the window and thinking and drawing and writing stories. And that boredom was so important. And I wrote an article this week. So adventure for me, I wrote all about kind of the flow of my life for what adventure has meant for me that actually started, and I won't, spoil the story if you want to read the article, but I grew up on a 20-acre farm and we had horses and so I was outside all the time. We did not have a television growing up. I didn't actually have a television with cable until Todd and I got together and we had our first baby because I would be so tired, we'd watch like a movie in the evening, but I grew up without television. So being on that farm, my dad had this globe. It's actually down in my office, where Todd's sitting right now. And my dad would tell these stories of traveling all around the world, and that got my imagination going. And then as I would wander in the farm, bored in the most beautiful way, my brain and my imagination would get moving. And the same thing, we had a cottage, and when you were telling this story, and I've had the privilege of reading this story, and we've actually introduced a little something, something new for these soulful sessions and for when Todd and I do talks, and you get 2 gifts at the end of this. So if you stick it out, we're going to pop it into the chat, and you get Todd's whole story before it goes live. And I encourage you to read it because he's got a little bit of that zing of humor in addition to all the knowledge and the wisdom. So thank you for that, Todd. So yeah, this idea of boredom, even when we chose to homeschool our boys, which we called life school because it was happening out in the world, a lot of it was free flow boredom in the world. The most beautiful boredom. We would pack up our backpacks and we would go out into the world with all of, the storybooks and the content for curriculum, and we would go out into the world, and then we would free flow. Our son Nathaniel's on this call today, so he will attest to that we did all of this. It was really boredom and inducing so that it would be able to conjure that idea of imagination and creativity and adventure. And from that, not only is creativity sparked, but the idea of what adventure next, and where might we go with that. And so I love that, Todd. And it's been so fun. We've had a whole month of new adventures, of thinking about what might come next and what might be the adventures that are flowing through in our lives. And we've, like yesterday morning, I was actually with Dr. Tanis, who's on the call today, and we went to do yoga on the pier. And then Todd and we met Tanis and her partner Ovi there last night, and we went dancing in the park. And we were really tired at the end of the day, and we almost didn't do it. And we were like, feeling that boredom, we were like, I'm tired, I just want to sleep. And we were like, no, let's go on the next adventure. So I think that when we set these analogies, when we take time to think about these values, when we come back to this and we make an intention to be able to create that connection with a value that we hold dear, like adventure, we can conjure it in all new ways. So we encourage you to be bored as often as you can be in the next weeks ahead. Okay, so I want to pop in and see all the beautiful thoughts that people put forward. How far I go back. Okay. Okay, I'm just reading here. Anira said, adventure, it's all about trying something new, exploring outside our comfort zone. I find adventure allows me to explore something new, which allows to be very present through something new, which can be uncomfortable and exciting. Absolutely. And then love Canada. I love that. And Elvis Costello. Oh, you got another Elvis Costello fan in Sarah. That's beautiful. Brenda, beautiful. Welcome. So glad to have you here. I love your writing. Just wonderful. I'd love to get to know you through your writing. I love that about Substack. Boredom is a gentle nudge to seek a way to relieve a feeling of boredom. Okay, that's from Katrina. Absolutely. I think we start thinking about what next. I think that's our nature as human beings. Hey, Todd, we want to hit that home run. We don't want to just cheat and get to first base.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to watch the balls sailing by you.
No. I agree with Katrina. Absolutely. That surrender adventure. Richard, welcome. It's great to have you. Greta, my idea of a brilliant adventure is jumping in the car, the plane, the boat, giant purse packed, and no idea what I might come across. Absolutely. That idea of just creating an adventure. I do think that's one of the reasons I chose to life school. And Todd was working full time. Thank you so much, dear. I got to be with the boys and we got to adventure. But because I was seeing the world through the eyes of our little boys, every day I thought and woke up, what adventure will we have today? And I thought about, could we go and tour, tour the fire station? Could we go to the mountains, into a place and a path that we've never been? And how could we turn every day into something exciting and memorable? And because I was doing that for my boys, I felt like I got to live that adventure in a whole different way than I normally did as an adult, in different ways. So absolutely, I agree with that. Anira, I love horses. Oh, I love to ride them often with my friend on her farm, right in your area. I used to rent them. Used to rent them in just outside of Washago in Brecken, and we used to rent horses right in your area. Well, a little further away from your world. but we used to rent them all the time, and I love horses too. Hi, Nathaniel. That's great. Oh my God, so funny. So fun. Adventure is a song only you can sing. Absolutely. And Kathy joined. Welcome, everybody. So we've been asking these questions of the community and those of you that are watching. And then we kind of share a little bit of our stories. And then you pop in and share yours because that's the best part. So I really do. I think that just having these conversations intentionally about what adventure brings is so powerful in our lives. Okay, so we have another question for you. Have you ever looked back? Excuse me. Have you ever looked back and realized what first felt frightening eventually became one of the greatest adventures of your life? So, those things that feel frightening at first, did they turn into great adventures and how? So, I love for you to just share an adventure that you felt kind of scared about, but you went for it anyway. And then we're going to chat and share some stories. So, Todd, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about your idea of what's been frightening in your life. And then went ahead and faced the fear and did it anyway. And then it became something spectacular.
It's a really interesting starting point. I think that the first time I really put myself out there on an adventure was, well, maybe not the first, but a good indication is when I moved from Thunder Bay to Toronto. So Thunder Bay is
Yeah.
120,000 people, and it's literally an 18-hour drive to Toronto, which is the next sort of big city. Minneapolis is about 8 hours south, but it's the U.S. So I decided I had just finished university. Had a teaching degree in history. There was no job, so I was bartending. I needed to do something, so I basically had $800 in a suitcase, and I moved to Toronto without a job. And so the experience itself is not uncommon. Many people do that, but the experience when you get there, I think, is varies for other people because it doesn't work for everyone. A lot of people move to the city, the big city, and then move home. So when I moved there, I was very very lucky. I went to an employment agency. I applied for a job. They sent me on a blind interview, and I got a job working at Disney. So that's a pretty good way to start your adventure. So I got in with this Fortune 500 company, and I was customer service in the music division. So I was basically helping customers with orders on music. Um, and so when I got there's a bunch of stages to it, and when I got there, I remember walking around going, I can't do this. This is too big. It's too many people. I'm not dressed properly. I'm dressed for Thunder Bay. I'm not dressed for Toronto. I don't look sharp. I don't have these skills. I can't do this. So there's this self doubt that starts off the process. And then you kind of go, okay, take a breath. You're an idiot. Just breathe through it, and you can do this.
Yeah.
So you sort of go through this part where you're like a walking zombie. Then I got the job very quickly, which was amazing. And then I started going to work, and it was like, okay, there's a lot I need to learn about this big city culture that I didn't have.
Yeah.
I guess Toronto is like kind of it's like a kinder, gentler New York City. So it's a big city, lots of people, lots of money, moving very quickly. And I remember walking down the street past on the way to the bus, and I walked by a car dealership, and there was a car there, and it was like, I remember it was like $18,000, and I said, who could ever afford $18,000 to buy a car? I don't understand that. That's out of
Yeah.
my realm of thinking, right? But
Yeah.
then you sort of keep going, and you just go on, and so you're not really enjoying it yet. There's some things you liked. I used to be able to go watch the Blue Jays play for $4 in the cheap seats, so that was kind of cool. And so it was this, and they had great museums in Toronto. It's a great city.
Yeah.
But it took me a while. It took me about a year to go, okay, I get this, and I'm starting to like the culture. And then you become
Yeah.
part of it, and then you start to flourish in it. So the fear was not founded in anything other than the unknown, but it was something I knew I had to put myself through. So anyway, that the adventure became life changing in reality. If I'd stayed in Thunder Bay, I probably would have been doing and nothing wrong with this, but a blue collar job, and I'd be retired now, and I'd be sitting at my cottage, or they call them camps out there, and just having a different life experience.
Yeah.
Not with Jen, she wouldn't have been there because there's no way she would have. Anyway, there's a whole other story around that. But anyway, that was the adventure, and that was the positive outcome of it. But it just takes a while to get there.
Yeah. No, so cool. I love between Todd and I, we've been together 22 years. And, I feel like it's not our first go around. I feel like we are souls from another time and space as well, too. But I love that I hear your stories anew. And this is, when we're talking about adventure in relationship, that's the key to ask each other these questions. Like Todd and I do it in a public setting like this just recently, but it really is about asking those questions, because when I hear you, I really feel like I hear your story in a different way, in a different, in a different tone or a different environment. And it's always exciting. And the stories of adventure much are what make us who we are, right? Um, Todd and I, it's interesting. There's so much, like as you talk, there's just 1,000 little things. But how Todd and I met, I was obsessed with adventure. I was obsessed with adventure. And I think it was not only born, if you read the story in the article that I wrote, it wasn't just my father and mother, they lived in South Africa for 3.5 years. My dad graduated from the University of Toronto in Ontario and in political science. And he was headhunted, if you can imagine, and so many fascinating stories. But he was headhunted by Ford Motor Company and IBM in 1951. So you can imagine, what an honor that was and how incredible that was. And he had to make a decision between the two. And I remember my dad telling me about going to the plant of IBM, and that it was like a city block long with all the computers, and they had all this air conditioning going because they had to cool everything in this environment. And so he described that he ended up taking the job with Ford because they offered him a job overseas to go and work in Africa for 3.5 years. And so my mom and dad had just met, and he had to make a decision. I either have to wait until I get back in 3 years and hope that Loie is still around, or I have to ask her to marry me and we'll go together on this adventure. And so that story really stuck with me because she obviously said yes. And then Ford actually paid for my parents to have their honeymoon, stopping at points along the way, all the way down to South Africa. And so many incredible cities, and they would tell the stories of Paris and hiking to the Eiffel Tower. And, they would talk about when they got to Africa, they talked about staying at the Waldorf Astoria, and, Ford put them up, and they had this wonderful experience. Hi, Miles. Miles is one of our speakers next weekend. Glad you could join us, love. So my dad would tell these incredible stories that would spark that imagination. So that started it. And then when I was young, and those of you that are our members, that for the age of 16 to 26, 6 of my friends passed away, and I lived in a very small town of 24,000 people, so that was a lot. And each one of them, it's a whole other book at some point, each one of them came to me and had a message for me before they passed. And then I saw them in a dream afterwards about where they went beyond. And that's what got me into hospice volunteering and hospice work. And that sparked this idea that time is limited, that there is no guarantee of tomorrow, because I thought Kirsten would be around for the rest of time. And as a 16-year-old, I thought, where is Kirsten for the next 70 years of my life? And I felt like I had to kind of live the adventure for all of us. And I wanted to do things that people really talked about doing and dreamed about doing, but didn't do. And so, I'm not going to get into the whole long story of it. In the article, I kind of do a quick synopsis of everything, but every point in turn, I lived my life as if I only had 6 months left to live. And so I thought, is what I'm doing right now what I would be doing if that were true? And if it's not, I need to shift it up. And if it is, then I keep doing it. And so by the time I met Todd, I was completely immersed in the idea of adventure. In fact, my sister used to tease, as you remember, Todd, that my sister used to tease that I would travel all around the world. And she had married a guy from north of Thunder Bay and settled in Thunder Bay. And she said, you're going to travel all around the world and you're going to marry a guy from Thunder Bay so that you come to us and live here. And I said, that is never going to happen, love. It's never going to happen. I pictured myself living in Europe for the rest of time. I was just obsessed with that travel. And so anyway, I moved to Toronto after I lived in Austria. I met Todd Maki playing beach volleyball. We went for our very first beer, and I said, so where are you from? And he said, Thunder Bay. And I said, no way. I said, you might know my brother-in-law. He's an optometrist there. And I said, in the Spence Clinic. And he said, is his name by chance like Dr. Alan McNally? And I said, yeah, he is. How did you know? And he goes, my sister-in-law works for your brother-in-law. And so we had this whole, and he was like, does your dad play Santa Claus at the mall? And he's like, oh yeah, I've known about your family for about 2.5 years. But what drew me to Todd was not just that he came from those gorgeous roots, but that one of the things that drew me to you immediately, as you know, Todd, is that you had quit your job at Corhani, which was after Disney, and then you decided that you were going to go off on a solo trip to Ireland by yourself, and you were going to just allow life to take you where it would take you, and you engaged in a surrender adventure. And that's what drew me to Todd, because I thought a person that's not committed and doesn't align themselves and believe that who they are is their job. That was hugely important to me, because I believed in that surrender, listening to that voice within. This is where the Soulful Way is born from. Listening to that voice within and following everywhere it went. And Todd did that. And I was like, that's what drew me. And then all the other beautiful bits of wisdom. But
And I think,
that's,
okay.
yeah, go ahead.
And I think that Sarah just put a comment that that's an amazing coincidence. I actually don't think it's a
Yeah,
coincidence. I think Jen's
yeah,
been stalking me for years before we met. No, just kidding. I think that we were
yeah,
meant to meet, and we actually had parallels. Like we were living in like Jen worked at the same bar that I worked at 10 years earlier in Thunder Bay,
mhm,
and you were living in Aurelia, and I had friends in Aurelia, so we could have like bumped into each other literally
yeah,
thousands of times. And I think that we came together not as a coincidence, but at the time we were meant to come together.
yeah,
So had Jen met me 10 years earlier, I didn't have that
yeah,
sense of adventure or sense of like it wanes, it waxes and wanes, it comes and goes.
absolutely.
And I think that at the point where Jen met me, I had done these things that were unusual. And the other side of it, the coin is Jen had done these things were unusual too. So you had worked
Yeah,
in the States and you had gone from a corporate job to a fun job, and it was altruistic, Easter
yeah,
Seals, helping people. And then when the reason that we moved out west, I mean, this
yeah,
is the open to adventure thing, is that Jen was working at Easter Seals. I wasn't working at that point because I had just quit my job.
yeah,
And I said, I was listening to The Fan, which is the sports station. There's a lot of sports in my stuff. I'm sorry about that. I was listening to the sports station, and there was a dead time, and there's the three broadcasters that were working based out of Toronto, and they said, if you could live anywhere in Canada, where would you live? And all three of them said Calgary. And I told Jen the story, just for different reasons. Calgary's a great place, for different reasons. And then I told Jen the story, and she said, we're moving to Calgary, aren't we? And I said, yeah, I think we are. And then
yeah,
within, what was it, 30 days, we were starting to sell furniture, and we're starting to make
yeah,
plans, and we were gone very
yeah.
quickly after that.
Our whole life has been like that. When we talked about and it's, one of the important bits of the story that some of you have heard was that when Todd and I met, I've always gone on retreat. I've spent that. I crave boredom. I crave silence and stillness. I have to listen to my soul. That's where the Soulful Way is born from. I have to listen to that. It's weaved into every bit of my work, every bit of my writing. I really fundamentally believe that listening to that wild divine wisdom within ourselves is essential. And you and I would never have met had you not listened to yours and I not listened to mine.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up together. And we didn't need one another. We wanted one another, but we didn't need one another. And it was just that listening to yourself and trusting and not settling and learning and taking risks and then learning from those risks or learning and shifting the way that we need to. But so this whole divine adventure, our whole lives have always been that way. So when Todd and I met, we were actually, those of you that don't know, we were engaged in 6 months. We met at the beginning of the summer. We went on our first date in September, and we were engaged in February. And I had been a serial dater. And my brother-in-law said I needed a button that said, I just want to be friends. That was my world, because I just never thought I'd ever get married, because I thought I was just too much to handle for anyone, because I just thought I am, in the most honoring sense of the word, because I really admire gypsies, the idea of the gypsy, the culture of the gypsy, the trust in your community, the flowing from place to place, the trusting in your environment. And so I, in the most respectful way possible, felt myself a gypsy or a wanderer. And I just went taught. So I went away on retreat when we first met. It was Christmas. We got engaged in February, but in Christmas, I'd gone away, and I was at a retreat in the middle of the mountains in California. There was no cell phone. And I was journaling, and I was at a crossroads in my life. And I thought, I was sitting and I said, I was launching my business, what is now our Soulful Way and Jennifer Maki Consulting and Mad Hero Productions began as Center of Yes, this business I was building. And I was at this crossroads, and I thought, I can either build my business and really commit, but there's this guy, Todd Maki. I don't know. What do you think, God? For me, it's a spiritual God. So I'm like writing out the answer, and I wrote, he's the most incredible man I've ever met. He's the most incredible person I've ever met. He's the most incredible soul I've ever met. And every time I wrote that, another story came forward of something that he had said or done in a very short period of time that just aligned with my soul. And so I went down to the phone box, to the phone booth. It was not red, Sarah, but I do love those. I know in Europe you get this, but our whole Mad Hero project was based on the red phone booth. Come out soaring. And so I went down to the phone box and I said, Todd Maki, you have such a beautiful life in Toronto. I totally get it. He had beautiful friends. He had the Bloor West Village orphan gang. That's what they called themselves, the BWOGs. Hey, so it's all the orphans that had come from everywhere, and they just had this beautiful little community. And I said, I got to tell you, I'm never going to stay in Toronto. This is just not where I'm going to stay. As beautiful as it is, I have no idea where the world is going to take me, but I know I won't be staying in that city. And I said, but you have a beautiful life. And so I understand. And he said, you're my home now, Jenny. And so it doesn't matter where we go, we're going together. And I was like, okay. When I came home, then I like February, I teased him all the time about the fact that, I needed a rock. I needed a rock before we moved. And it's a total joke because I don't need any of that. And he said, I have to wait till the spring so I can find one. When the snow thaws, I'll be able to get you a rock. And so I was very surprised when he asked me in February to get married. And then we were off to Calgary. Literally said, I guess we're moving to Calgary. Absolutely. And then I said, we got to Calgary and we arrived. Neither one of us had ever been to Calgary at all. Like, this is how crazy our adventures are. And I just like, okay, so we arrive in Calgary and when we got off the plane, we thought we were going to be in the middle of the mountains. So Todd and we went over to his buddy's house and it was like, he was looking up the deck and he goes, isn't it a beautiful view of the mountains? And they are this big, like 50 million miles away. And Todd and I, at the end of this dinner, looked at each other and said, that's it. We're renting a car. We got to get up to the mountains. Like, we can't move to Calgary. We need to move to the mountains. So we literally rented a car, drove up to Canmore, arrived there, met the guy that would be our property manager. He found us a place. We visualized living in view of the mountains. We should have said not right by the highway. You got to be careful what you ask for because you'll get it. But we got this beautiful place in the mountains and we moved to Canmore. And we traveled across Canada. And we won't bore you with all the stories of the adventures, but literally, this is why we talk about this. We have surrendered. These have not all been stories of triumph in the moment. We risked everything to go across Canada. We couldn't get jobs. We spent all our money. We had to rebuild everything. We had babies when we didn't know if we would be able to afford them. And then we rebuilt the next vision and the next plan. And it's just been phenomenal. And then even like those of you that don't know, I had a stroke and I had heart surgery and we came out on the other side of that. And every time there's a health issue or there's something going on that is challenging us, it's the opportunity to look within and say, where next? And to trust the universe and that voice within you and just follow it wherever it leads. Because if you do, you will have the most spectacular life. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. A lot of you, if you're drawn to this, you're living it. And I know a lot of you personally, you are living this or you're on the cusp of it. And honestly, it's so worth it because really, what else is this life about but adventure? And it doesn't mean that adventure is flying on a plane and taking off. Sometimes that adventure is the deep dive within. It's spending weeks in silence, listening, journaling, writing, delivering your soul onto the page or into a song or playing a guitar the way Todd does and the way that our kids do. But it is a grand, wild adventure to be embraced. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful you and I get to do this together. And this is our latest adventure. You guys are on it. You're on it. We risked everything. Todd gave up his job. and we said, we've spent 25 years building dreams for everybody else, helping them beautifully so, happily so. But now we want to build something that's a legacy and that can really change people's lives in community. And I'm very excited you're on for the journal. And all those of you that have invested in your membership, it's $18.88 a month because eights are fabulous. Abundance, right? Building abundance. But it's like $18.88 a month. And then we build from that. And we're building the art of storytelling is our next workshop. I'm going off to Ontario and Todd's going to be zoomed in. And we're doing the art of storytelling and bringing your words to the world. And we're teaching people how to bring their stories out of their souls through meditation and listening to that voice within, and then putting them to the page and getting them into the hands of people that you love. And we're privileged to do that. And eventually we'll be offering it online for all of you if that speaks to your soul and everyone has a story within them. I'm just so grateful, grateful, grateful. So I want to go back and I want to read through. We're coming up on 888. Yay, I love that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, hold on. I want to read. I have so much to scroll back through. Todd, we lost you. Is that on purpose, love?
Sorry, I'm still here. No, I was trying to do something and it didn't work.
Okay. So hold on. I got to keep going all the way back. So, when you know, such a strong, oh my goodness. I was talking too long. It's talking too long because, hold on. I'm just reading. Okay. Oh, Nathaniel said, moving to Cortez for school was so many hurdles, but in the end, it was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, honey. So that's our son, Nathaniel. And we have the privilege of having him home for a couple of days because he's a camp counselor up in Squamish, beautiful area in the mountains. But Nathaniel made that happen. And I could cry saying it, but when Nathaniel came to us and said that he wanted to go to school in Cortez, it's a private school and it was about $6,000. And Todd and I said, oh, honey, we're saving for university and we're building this business. And he said, I don't know whether we can make that happen. And he said, don't worry. He said, they have a scholarship program and I'm going to apply and I'm going to see where it takes me. And he got a full scholarship to go to that school. And I'm so proud of you, honey. And you're a major adventurer and you're just getting started, honey. So I'm just so proud of you. Sorry. I can't help it. I'm just so proud of my boys. But that's just really cool. Like you are a living example of doing that. And I don't want to embarrass you too much. But I so admire you and following your voice, and Liam is too. And I'm really grateful. Okay, let that. Anira, that's funny. I taught in South Korea, so I had to pack up my life in two 50-pound suitcases. I lived in two suitcases. Anira, Jen, oh my word. We have so many connections. It's crazy. She lives in Southern Ontario. I lived out of two suitcases for 8 years of my life. And I can't believe that. So carry on and lived in another country for 2 years teaching. It was so scary, but amazing. I love these stories. Katrina, taking Taekwondo was scary, but every class was an adventure and growing bit by bit, seeing my son and myself grow physically. So amazing. And to do that with your son, just, it's such a privilege when we get to do it with a kindred. Doesn't matter whether it's our child or it's just a kindred soul in life. It's so beautiful. Oh, you had a horse named Dusty. Oh, I love that, Katrina. That's wonderful. Ours were Gypsy, Lucky, Vicky, and Gypsy, Dolly, Vicky, and Lucky. And I just love it. Kindred spirits. Animals are just, particularly horses, just so magical. And I know a lot of you have fur babies out there, Sarah included. Katrina, I had the experience with jujitsu. Scary sparring with a teenage boy. I bet. I did Tai Chi. We do Qigong. I did kind of more the gentler, martial arts, but I love this. Like, I love your sharing. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, Todd. Sarah said, Katrina, my most scary adventure, knowing in 9 months I would be a mom. Oh, I hear you, sister. I felt like I had to fix everything about myself and then realized I'm okay just as I am. And we learn along the way, don't we, sweetheart? I was blessed to take a precious adventure like motherhood. Absolutely. Brenda, an extremely shy child. I was afraid to venture out alone. Our holidays we endured, not enjoyed. Adventure to me was a problem. Sadly, that still does sometimes raise an ugly head, but I went to Mauritius. I don't know where that is. alone for a small family reunion and saw myself in such a different light that renewed my outlook and opened doors. That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Brenda. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really important point too. We've met a few people through the Soulful Way, one in particular, and there's a beautiful woman that I connect with regularly, and and I love how she's going through a lot of challenges in her life right now, and so we're support to one another, and that's a really good point, Brenda, because I come at that loss of my friends. Yeah, I'm beyond that now, but just like that, sometimes in the midst of those deep challenges or not, being enduring adventure or loss and figuring out how to deal with that, it's often the challenge that brings us to the brink of being able to see ourselves and our life in new ways, and that is not always an easy task. So I'm just holding space for that for you. I'm grateful that I know through your writing that I've had the privilege to read that you're constantly evolving in that self-reflection, and you're so genuine and honest in your writing, and I'm just grateful that you're here. I feel very honored that you're here, Brenda. Beautiful Miles, we're new buddies. No worries, you're late. I tell everybody the same thing. It just wasn't your act yet. Someone told me that. It was the most freeing expression in life. And so I give that to you. And I'm glad you just showed up for your act. That's so great. Miles is going to be joining us next week, as will Tanis. I'm not sure if Tanis is still on the call with us today, but Dr. Tanis will be joining us next week, and Anira will be joining us next week as well too. So next Sunday we're going to be talking about adventure in life and where that's taken us. I'm really excited. We've got these folks. All of us need adventure. Katrina works in the olive business. And so she said, all of us need adventure with olive. I love that, sweetheart. This is so amazing. Your story. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. I love the story, Jen. Coincidence is such a strong conviction to have, especially earlier stages in the new era. Yeah, love it. We were meant to meet, Anira. We were, sweet Jen. Such a fabulous story. Thank you, everyone. I just so appreciate all of you. When you know, you know. I feel this so deeply. Aw, you're sweet. Katrina said you're the floor. Jennifer, our dancer. You're your own floor. You're your own dancer. I love you so much. I just so appreciate how we all come together. I'm in tears. So beautiful. I'm tearing up now too. Oh, I love you. When I met the priest that made my commitment, this is from Sarah, ceremony with Heather in 2003 in Edinburgh, I had the same thing. She is my home. I'm so grateful. I see that sparkle, Sarah, with you and Heather. I feel the privilege to have seen photos, and I see that sparkle, and I love that we're getting to know you in that. This is really what the Soulful Way is about, and the Soulful Collective, which is what we call our membership, is getting to know one another deeper and better and more every single month, and looking forward to these values, looking forward to these themes and playing them out in our lives, and then sharing, because that's the best bit. Is that when I walked El Camino a few years ago, I met my people in addition to Todd, but I did this beautiful solo trip. I'd always dreamed it, and Todd encouraged me to go. So did our boys. And I did this solo trip, and I met these souls. And I remember thinking, these are my people. And I'm sure there are more of them in the world. And so we built the Soulful Way to meet more of our people so that we can have these exchanges. Todd, we're missing your beautiful face. Are you having trouble back there, love?
Yeah, I got a tech problem here. I need to get a tech agent here.
You
So
need a tech
yeah,
agent. I love Canmore. Oh, you've been there. That's so cool, Anira. That's great. Not boring at all. Love you. You two are amazing. Love to hear your stories. Trust the risk. Absolutely far out. Life well lived and still going strong. Props. Thanks so much, Miles. I appreciate that. Jamie, awesome to have you here. I love her. You've been popping all over the Soulful Way. Thank you for joining us today. That's very cool. As within, so without. Absolutely. I expect to see a movie of your lives. Oh, sweetheart. I want us to make a movie together. The Soulful Way. That'd be a dream. Yes, that's my adventure. The deep dive within. Absolutely very active, functionally intentional. I love that. You're both so inspiring. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your beautiful. We're coming up on 8. Oh, Robes joined us too. I'm so glad you're here, love. You're always such an inspiration in the world, my beautiful friend. Hello, Greta. That's great. Amazing, Nathaniel. Wow, well done. Major player in the world will make happen, them boys. They are. Absolutely. I feel grateful. That's about you, Nathaniel. You made the road for Nathaniel. Todd, Liam, great job. Thank you. Love you. We lock ourselves in a jail. We lock ourselves in a like a jail, but as we embark the ability to adventure, it's opening the cell door and coming out step by step. Four wells, not a prison. Make nor bars a cage. Beautiful. I love that. Freedom in doing the spontaneous things. This is great. Oh, beautiful. Rebecca is here today. Angel, lovely to have you here. She's been away adventuring all over the world at festivals. I've loved hearing about all your adventures, Rebecca. Welcome, welcome. We're all characters in the movie of this life. Todd Maki, I'm sad your beautiful face. I love that photo of you, but I miss you.
Oh, me too. I'm just thinking that if it's a movie of our life, I just hope mine's not a farce.
Yours not a farce. It is not. I will attest to that. My beautiful friends. So we have gone over today, but we have some soulful gifts for you. And what we decided is those that show up for these talks, you get a little something simple for us. Oh, Sue Ann was saying, have to run. Oodles of love to everyone. I love that you use that expression. Have glorious adventures. Thank you, Sue Ann. So for our members, I will send this out to you in email. But those that are watching today, if you're not a member, I still want to offer it to you. If you want to become members, we would welcome you with open arms. But never any pressure, only residents, resident and residents. So what I'd love to do is, I don't know that I can attach things here. I'm learning about the Substack deal, and I don't think I can attach anything in the
So
talk.
I was trying the same thing, and that's why my face disappeared, is because I was trying to attach something, and then I can't figure out
Okay.
how to get it back.
Okay, got it. Okay, people. So it looks as though we can't add things in the chat. But what I will do is, if you are familiar with the chat on Substack, I'm going to put them in there, and I will just label it Sunday Soulful Session Gifts. And then I'll try and tag as many of you, but honestly, I can't see everybody that is on the call today. So if you would like it, what it is Todd wrote the story. It's coming out in the Soulful Way newsletter this week. But he wrote this story, so you get it first. So if you pop into the chat, you'll get his story. And I also created a little gift for you to create adventure and vibrant living. And I wrote you out my every single day of the week, every single morning ritual, which is my matcha tea that I make with all these other spices. And I created the whole ritual around it. And I do it every single morning when I wake up. And so I thought, by way of adventuring in another level of health for yourself, that you may appreciate the little gift in the recipe. So I will put it in the chat. If you're not on the Soulful Way or you're not in the chat, please just send me a little email at jennifer@jennifermaki.com. So that I can write there for you. Jennifer. Oh, no, I can't. I will never be able to type that out in the time that we have left. Jennifer. No, it's not going to happen. My fingers, it's like, so it's jennifermaki.com. Jennifer@jennifermaki.com. So I'm really excited to just have it. Oh, Melanie's on here too. Lovely to have you guys. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy and full lives to join us and to be a part of this amazing community. I feel Todd and I both, you can't see his face, but he is wildly honored as well. Todd, why don't you just talk and say hi or goodbye, or thank you for typing that out for me. I just saw that whiz by. Thank you so much, Sarah. Love you, sweetie. Okay, Todd, do you want to talk? Because they can't see
Sure,
your face smiling.
sure. Just imagine me smiling. Thanks for coming, everybody. This was a bit of a Jen and I were tweaking with the format, just trying to become more conversational in the approach, and it's fun to us. I hope it's enjoyable to you too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you. We just love you. You're our people. Thank you so much. We have some things coming up. So next Sunday is the panel. Please show up for that. We'd love you. It's on Zoom. The link I will send out this week. We've already got it all set up. It's in the newsletter. It will be in the newsletter this week. The week after that, we've got the Soulful Collective, where we are sharing. Some of those folks that are going to be on the panel will also be in the Soulful Collective. We have 5 articles that are from beautiful writers and adventurers for the week after on the 23rd. That comes out on the Wednesday, the 22nd. And then please book into your calendar. If you're new or you've joined us all along and your members, please join us for the last Saturday of the month. We will actually, the four of us, Liam, Nathaniel, Todd, and I, will be on adventure, and we will be coming to you live from our adventure spot on the last Saturday of the month, which is the 20. I don't know if I wrote down last Saturday of the month. Can't remember what it is. I think it's the 24th or 25th, but it's the last Saturday of the month. Anyway, lots of love.
It's the day after Friday.
It's the day after Friday. Lots of love, guys. Be in touch. Reach out if you need anything. Wishing you the most adventurous, soulful week you can imagine. Lots of love from both of us. Bye.
Bye.